Okay, go.
Just want to start today with a trigger warning disclaimer. This podcast contains descriptions of death and drowning. Hi, I'm Katie Carpenter.
I'm Terry Kovanitz.
We apologize for any and all mistakes today as we begin this episode of Titanic Transcripts.
The witness has been sworn. Please state your name, age, residence, and occupation.
Ernest Archer, age 36, 59 Portchester Road, Woolston, Southampton, able seaman.
How long have you been rated as an able seaman?
About 20 years.
And how long have you sailed with the White Star Line?
With the White Star Line, 5 years this month.
When did you join the Titanic?
On Wednesday, the 10th of April, sir.
Did you sign the day she sailed?
No, signed on Monday, 2 days before she sailed.
And you were on the Titanic at the time of the catastrophe?
Yes, sir.
Will you explain, please, in your own way, what occurred immediately preceding and following the accident?
I was in my bunk asleep. I heard kind of a crush, something similar to when you let go of the anchor. It sounded like the cable running through the hawse pipe.
Was there a shock, a jar?
No shock and no jar, just a grating sensation.
You were asleep at the time?
I was asleep at the time.
You are a sound or light sleeper?
Pretty light sleeper, sir.
You are easily awakened?
Yes, sir.
So if there had been much of a shock, you think you would have felt it, although you had been asleep?
Yes, sir.
And it was more of a noise?
More of a noise than a shock, sir.
And what happened?
I jumped out of my bed, put on a pair of trousers, and ran up on deck to find out what was the matter. I saw some small pieces of ice on the starboard side, on the forward deck.
And which deck?
The forewell deck.
How much ice was there?
Not an extraordinarily lot, sir.
Like how much?
Just not a great lot.
No heavy pieces?
No, sir.
Not any 50 or 100-ton chunks?
No, nothing like that. Just small pieces.
No pieces any larger than your head?
No, I never saw any larger than that. After I saw the ice, I went back in the door and put on a pair of shoes, a guernsey, and a cap. While I was doing that, the boatswain ordered us on deck.
And how long after that did that occur?
About 10 minutes, sir.
And what did you do?
We went on deck to the top of the forecastle ladder, to the boatswain, and we waited for the watch. And he gave us orders, and we proceeded to the boat deck, and proceeded to uncover and clear away the boats.
Had you been assigned to a boat?
Yes, sir.
What number?
Number 7.
That was on the port side?
No, on the starboard side, sir.
The odd numbers were on the starboard side?
Yes, the odd numbers on the starboard side and the even numbers on the port.
Did you go right to your own boat, number 7?
No, we did not have orders to go to number 7. We had orders to uncover all boats.
Oh, you went then to the boat you were nearest at that time?
We were to start and get it ready for lowering.
And after you uncovered the boats, what then?
We went to them, uncovered them, and got the falls ready for lowering. Then I went over to the starboard side and assisted in lowering about 3 boats. I could not mention the number of the boats I lowered. I'd never taken any notice. Then an officer came along. I could not mention his name, and he sang out that they wanted a seaman on the other side, on the port side, to assist over there. I went over then and assisted in getting numbers 12, 14, and 15 out. I assisted in getting the falls and everything ready, and the passengers into number 14 boat. Then I went to number 16.
Have you a recollection that would be sufficiently distinct to be of value to the number of passengers that went into numbers 12, 14, and 16?
Well, I should say, sir, they would approach about 50.
To each boat?
To each boat.
And then what?
Then, when I got to number 16 boat, the officer told me to get in the boat and see that the plug was in. So I got in the boat. I seen that the plug was in tight, and then they started to put passengers in, and I assisted to get them in.
Were you still remaining in number 16?
Still remaining in the boat and assisting the passengers, children and ladies, to the boat.
Did any men get in?
No, sir. I never saw any men get in, sir. Only my mate.
You were directed by the officer to get into the boat, and your mate was directed by the officer to get into the boat?
So far as I know he was, sir. I never heard the order for him to get in. I was busy with the children. I was busy, so I did not know who was speaking.
Then what?
I heard him give orders to lower the boat. The last order I received after I heard that was from the officer, to allow nobody in the boat, and there was no one else to get into the boat. That was just prior to starting the lowering.
You and your mate were in the boat?
Yes, sir.
Was the officer in the boat?
No officer in the boat.
So then you lowered the boat.
We lowered the boat, and my mate pulled at the releasing bar for both falls, and that cleared the boat, and we started to pull away.
Having about 50 passengers in the boat, and only your mate and yourself?
Yes, sir. The master-at-arms came down after us. He was the coxswain.
He came down one of the ropes?
Yes, sir. He came down the fall.
He was sent by an officer.
I presume he was sent by an officer.
To help fill up your complement.
He said he was sent down to be the coxswain of the boat.
And he took charge?
He took charge.
And you acted under his orders, you and your mate?
Yes.
So there were 3 of you and about 50 passengers?
Yes, sir.
All women and children, or some men?
All women and children.
While you were loading the boat, was there any effort made on the part of the others to crowd into the boat?
No, sir. I never saw any.
No confusion?
No confusion at all.
No individuals, men or others, who were repelled from getting in?
No, sir. I never saw anything of that at all. Everything was quiet and steady.
And then after, you commenced to row away?
We rowed, I should say, 1/4 of a mile away from the ship, and we remained there.
Oh, why did you remain?
We stood by the ship, sir. We would not go right away from it. To tell you the truth, I did not think the ship would go down. I thought we might go back to her again afterwards.
So after she struck, the general impression, so far as the ship was concerned, was that she was not going to sink?
I did not think so myself, sir.
So you remained then about 1/4 of a mile away. And what happened?
I heard a couple of explosions.
You heard 2?
I heard 2.
How far apart were the 2?
I should say they would be about 20 minutes each between each explosion. From the time I heard the first one until I heard the second one, it would be about 20 minutes, sir.
And what did you assume from the explosions?
That the water had gotten into the boiler room.
Were you sufficiently near so that you could see the ship itself when you were about 1/4 of a mile away?
Yes, sir. We could quite distinguish it.
That is, the lights on the ship?
Oh, yes, sir.
Did the bow lights go out first?
They started to go out from forward.
Did quite a number of the lights in the bow or forward go out at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Or were they gradually going out?
They gradually worked along, sir.
From bow to stern?
From bow to stern, yes, sir.
Do you think the ship broke in 2?
Well, I could not say that, sir.
There was nothing that gave you such an impression?
No, sir.
You were watching the ship all the time?
Watching it settle down all the time, yes, sir.
How long a period elapsed from the time the lights began to go out forward and then aft before all the lights went out? 2 or 3 minutes or seconds?
I should say 3/4 of an hour.
You would?
Yes, sir. From the time they first started to go out.
You were not familiar with the boiler rooms on this ship?
No, sir. I never was in the boiler rooms at all.
Did you hear any cries after the lights went out?
Yes, sir. When the ship went down, she seemed to come up on end.
When she came up on end, the stern up in the air, was her keel visible? Did you see that?
I could not say, sir, that I could see her keel.
Were the lights still visible on the stern?
No, sir. The lights were out.
How, at that time in the morning, would it be possible for you to see that the stern was in the air and the bow down at a distance of 1/4 of a mile? It was just a black object, was it not?
Yes, sir. Just a black mass.
What time about did you figure this was? Have you any idea?
Well, I should say about 2 o'clock.
But that would be a guess on your part, would it?
Yes, sir. About 2 o'clock. I had no watch to see any time, so it would only be a rough guess.
And then what did you do after the ship had sunk?
It was spoken by one of the lady passengers to go back and see if there was anyone in the water we could pick up, but I never heard any more of it after that.
And the boat was in charge of the master-at-arms?
The master-at-arms had charge of the boat.
Did this lady request you go back?
Yes, sir. She requested us to go back.
And what did he say?
I did not hear. I was in the fore part of the boat.
There were 50 people in the boat?
Yes, sir.
And you were rowing?
Yes, sir.
Did any of the ladies in the boat ask to help row or take a trick at the oar?
There was one, a stewardess.
She tried to assist?
She tried to assist.
And she did?
She did do so. I told her it was not necessary for her to do it, but she said she would like to do it to keep herself warm.
Your boat was perfectly watertight?
Oh, yes. No water in it at all, sir.
And then you stood by until the Carpathia rescued you all?
And we fancied we saw a light, sir, and we started to pull toward the light for a time, and then, after we had been pulling for it a half an hour, we saw the Carpathia's side lights.
Was it the Carpathia you thought you saw?
Not in the first place.
What was that?
We did not know what became of that. When we saw the Carpathia, we turned to go back. I knew that it was a steamboat of some kind, so we turned and made back towards the Carpathia. Of course, it turned out to be the Carpathia. We did not know at the time what ship it was, but I knew it was a steamboat of some kind.
Were any of your people transferred from your boat after you lowered her, or taken from the water by you?
Yes, sir, one fireman. There was one fireman found in the boat after we got clear. I do not know how he'd come there.
Was he taken out of the water?
No, sir, I do not know how he come in the boat. He was transferred from another boat, I think it was number 9, after we were pulling toward the Carpathia.
Why was he transferred? To help row the other boat?
Yes, sir, to help row the other. I believe that there was only one other able seaman in it.
Do you know his name?
The fireman's?
Yes.
No, sir, I do not.
What were your duties at sea?
Keeping the ship clean, washing the paintwork, scrubbing, and keeping the deck clean.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. You are excused at this time. And I would like to call Albert Haines. You have been sworn. And where do you live?
In Kent. My home is in Kent.
And how old are you?
31, sir.
And what is your occupation?
Boatswain's mate.
What are your duties on ship?
I take charge of one watch, sir, the starboard.
What watch?
The starboard watch, sir.
What are your duties?
I am in charge of one of the watches, doing the work of the ship.
Of what do your duties consist?
In keeping the decks clean and the paintwork, looking after the men, and keeping the decks clean, washing the decks down.
Okay. When did you join the Titanic?
I joined her at Belfast.
On what date?
I was there just about a week before she came away.
Before she sailed from Belfast?
Yes, sir.
Were you on board when the trial trips were made?
Yes, sir.
Did you have anything special to do during those trips?
No, sir.
Where was your station on watch?
I'm stationed out on the poop. I have the watch out on the poop going in and out of the harbor.
You went with the ship from Belfast to Southampton?
Yes, sir.
And sailed with the Titanic on its voyage from Southampton on April 10th?
Yes, sir.
On the trip from Southampton to the place where this accident occurred, will you just tell what you did and what you saw, if anything?
There was nothing unusual occurred until we had the accident.
Where were you when the accident occurred?
I was standing by, down below. It being Sunday night, the men did not work on Sunday night, and the men were in the mess room, and I was outside, sir. If it had been any other night, we would have been washing the decks.
What do you mean by the expression standing by?
Just standing by for any orders. I was standing under the forecastle waiting for any orders so that I would be available if they wanted me.
And did you receive any orders that night?
Not before she struck, no, sir.
Did you see the captain on the bridge?
Afterwards, I saw him when we was getting the boats out.
Oh, after the collision?
Yes, sir.
Did you see him before?
No, sir. I did not have cause to go on the bridge before.
So he might have been there and you not have seen him?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Officer Lightoller there that night?
No, sir.
Or Officer Murdoch?
Yes, sir. I was working with Officer Murdoch, and Mr. Wilde, Chief Officer, was working with us, too.
Did they give you any orders?
Yes, sir.
What orders?
When I first heard the blow, I heard some air escaping right forward, and I ran forward to the exhaust from the forepeak tank. I said the forepeak tank was filling, and the air was coming out, and the water was coming in. It was an overflow pipe.
And what was said about that?
Just as I got there, the chief officer, Mr. Wilde, had gotten there, and the lamp trimmer was there, too, Mr. Hemming.
And what was said there?
We said the forepeak tank was filling, and the air was coming out, and the water was coming in. He asked if there was any water in the forepeak, and the storekeeper went into the forepeak, and there was no water there, sir. That is the forepeak, sir, not the forepeak tank. The forepeak tank was full. So the chief officer then went on to the bridge to report.
And what time was that?
The right time, without putting the clock back, was 20 minutes to 12.
And what was done then?
I went down to look at number 1 hole.
And what did you find there?
The tarpaulin was bellying up, raising, showing that the water was coming in.
What did you do then?
I went on the bridge and reported to the chief officer.
And what was said then?
I told him number 1 hole was filling. He gave me an order then to get the men up and get the boats out.
And what did you do?
I worked on the boats, sir. I got all the boats swung out.
The lifeboats?
The lifeboats, yes, sir. Then I went and stood by my own boat, sir, number 9.
On which side?
On the starboard side.
And what happened then?
We had the boat crew there, and Mr. Murdoch came along with a crowd of passengers, and we filled the boat with ladies and lowered the boat, and he told me to lay off and keep clear of the ship. I got the boat clear, sir, and laid out near the ship. I did not think the ship would sink, of course, sir. When I saw her going down by the head, I pulled farther away for the safety of the people in the boat.
Now, how far away?
About 100 yards away at first, sir.
Mr. Murdoch told you to get into this boat?
Yes, sir. I was in charge of that boat. That was my own boat, there being with 2 sailors with me.
And what were their names?
One was named McGuff, and there was another one by the name of Peters. That was my boat's crew.
That is, your regular boat's crew?
Yes, sir. Just the 2 men.
Was there a station bill posted at that time on the Titanic?
Yes, sir. A boat station bill before the ship ever left. As soon as the crew is known, they make out the list and put it up in the crew's quarters. Every man has a lifeboat station.
Of the crew?
The crew had. Every one of the crew. They were told off in the different boats.
And then what happened?
We saw the ship go down by the head.
Did you go back near the ship?
I had a boatload, sir, and I asked the men if they thought it advisable to go back. They said there was no more room, sir, and the boat was overloaded. To go back, I thought would be dangerous.
How many men were there in the boat?
We had over 50 in our boat altogether.
Men?
Well, the 2 sailors, and then I could not exactly say how many men, but there were 3 or 4 stewards and 3 or 4 firemen.
Do you remember their names?
I think the stewards are here with us now, sir.
Just give their names, please.
I do not know their names.
You do not remember just who they were?
I know their faces, but I do not know their names, sir.
And besides the stewards?
We had some firemen and 2 or 3 men passengers.
Do you know who they were?
No, sir.
Have you heard since who they were?
No, sir. I never spoke to any of them afterwards.
How many stewards were in your boat?
There might have been half a dozen. I do not know the exact number, sir.
And how many firemen?
I could not say, sir. 2 or 3, 3 or 4.
And were there any other members of the crew?
No, sir. No more of the crew.
Then there were about 15 men altogether.
Yes, sir.
How many men were there in the boat?
I counted them. I guess there were about 45 to 48. When there were no more women forthcoming, the boat was full. They were singing out for the women, and then the men jumped the bows of the ship and filled the bow up. The boat was a chock-a-block, sir.
You had 63 in your boat?
I could not say within 1 or 2, but around 60 I had.
Was this the first boat that was lowered?
No, sir.
On the starboard side?
No, sir. We started forward, and I was number 9. I was about the 5th boat to be lowered on the starboard side.
Do you know any of the women in this boat?
No, sir. I do not know their names. I would know them by sight, some of them.
Did you afterwards find out who any of them were?
No, sir.
Did you have any difficulty in lowering your boat?
No, sir.
And you handled it after you got into the water, all right?
Yes, sir.
Was this one of the largest sized lifeboats?
Yes, sir. One of the largest size, sir.
Was there any officer in that boat?
No, sir.
Did Mr. Murdoch tell you to do anything with that boatload of people and then to come back to the ship? Or did any officer tell you that?
No, sir. He told me to keep them away and lay off clear. That is what he said.
How far were you from the Titanic? How far off did you lay?
I laid off closer at first, sir.
Like how close?
Within 100 yards at first, sir, until I saw her going down by the head.
You kept within 100 yards of her?
For a time, yes, sir.
Until you saw her going down by the head?
Yes, until I saw she was gradually sinking farther and farther down.
And then you pulled away farther?
Yes, sir.
Did you see any people in the water?
No, sir.
Did you hear any cries for help?
Yes, sir. We heard some cries after the ship went down.
Did anybody in your boat urge you to return?
No, sir. I called the sailors aft, and I passed the remark to them. There's people in the water, I said. Do you think it advisable? I said. We can't do nothing with this crowd we have in the boat, because we had no room to row, let alone do anything else, sir. And it was no good of our going back. By the time we got back there, we could not have done anything. We could not move in the boat, let alone row. I thought it unsafe to go back there, sir, having so many in the boat.
What did you do after the ship went down?
I told the men it was no good rowing, that we could not do anything until the morning, and I just lay there all night, sir.
Did you have a light on your boat?
Yes, sir. I had a lamp there, a little pocket lamp.
Was the lamp lighted?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any provisions on your boat?
Yes, sir.
And did you have water?
Yes, sir. Biscuits and water, sir.
Okay. What happened then?
Just as it got daylight, sir, I saw the Carpathia's lights, and I pulled toward her and went alongside and put the passengers aboard the Carpathia.
Were the passengers all alive when you got to the Carpathia?
Yes, sir.
Did the women urge you to go back towards the boat?
No, sir, the women did not, sir. I was in charge of the boat, sir, and if I had thought it possible, I would have gone back. I took charge of the boat.
Did you help load the other boats?
No, sir. We were turning out the boats while they were filling the forward ones. As soon as we finished turning the boats out, I went to my own station. I got to my own boat just in time as they filled my boat. The boatswain missed his boat, number 7. Number 7 was gone before he got there. My own boat was number 9.
You did not see any of the other boats loaded?
No, sir. I did not see any of them loaded. I came back just in time to take charge of my own boat.
Is that all you know about this matter?
Yes, sir.
These davits were of a new type, were they?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever worked with them before?
In the Olympic, I worked with them.
Did they work all right?
They worked very free.
Do you know of any of them that did not work all right?
No, sir. The screws were all in good condition, and they kept them covered with little canvas covers. You take the cover off, and one man can haul them out or in if they are in good condition.
And when you were on the deck that night near the bridge, did you see any ice?
I saw the ice on the forewell deck, where she hit small ice.
I mean, did you see any ice before she struck?
Oh, no, sir.
After she hit, did you see any ice?
I saw a little small ice on the forward side of the forewell deck.
In the morning, when it got daylight, did you see any ice?
All around, sir.
You saw ice all around the boat? Icebergs?
Yes, sir. And there was a big field of ice there, too.
How many icebergs?
I could not say. There was a good few of them, sir. They were dotted all over the place.
Have you ever seen icebergs before?
I had seen them before, yes, sir.
And where?
I had seen them off Newfoundland.
Oh, up in the same region?
Further north, sir.
Near the Grand Banks?
I had seen them up at St. John's, Newfoundland.
How many icebergs do you think you saw the Monday morning following the accident?
Well, there were anywhere from 30 to 50.
Besides field ice?
Besides the iceberg, sir, there was a big field of ice miles long.
When you said that you saw these icebergs, did you include large and small ones?
Yes, sir.
Growlers, in other words?
Yes, sir.
How high was the largest one that you saw?
I should say from 80 to 100 feet high.
And how far away from you was it when you saw it?
About half a mile, sir.
Miss Haines, you had been on the Olympic, had you not?
Yes, sir.
Doing the same work?
No, sir. I was a quartermaster there, sir.
Had you made a trip from Southampton to New York on the Olympic?
I was in her from the time she started, right up to the trip we went to the Titanic, sir.
Did you ever see any icebergs while you were on the Olympic?
No, sir.
How many of the crew of the Titanic had you worked with before?
There were several of the Olympics crew there. The men that I had worked with were pretty well all White Star men. Some of them I had worked with in the Adriatic, and some of them in the Olympic, sir.
You had not been out very long on the Titanic.
No, sir.
And you had not worked with one another very long, had you?
Only from Southampton, sir.
Is there anything more you care to say about this matter?
No, sir. Well, I know of one incident there where a lady would not come into the boat. That is all, sir. She would not come into the boat when they were filling it. One of the ladies refused to get into the boat.
Did you ask her to get in?
The officers were trying to get her in. Mr. Murdoch then was trying to get her into the boat, and she would not get into the boat.
Do you know who it was?
No, sir. I could not say who it was.
How old a woman was it?
I could not say, sir. I could not see. I only know there was a lady there that would not get into the boat, and she went back.
Did she say she would not get into the boat because of her family or husband?
No, sir. I do not think that was it at all. I think she was afraid to get into the boat.
Oh, did the women hesitate a little about getting into the boat?
No, sir. None of the others. I did not see any of the others hesitate, except this one.
Did the men passengers try to get into the boats?
No, sir. I did not see any of them do it, at least.
Were they told to stand back?
Yes.
By Officer Murdoch?
Yes, sir.
What did he say when he told them that?
He just stood there. That is all.
And what did he say?
He filled the boats with the ladies. He told me to put all these ladies in the boat, and he filled her up, sir. When she was full, 2 or 3 men jumped in to the bow of her, and he said, "That's enough," and then he lowered her down.
What officer stood with you at the boat you lowered? That is, at the boat and helped load it and lower it?
Mr. Murdoch, sir.
Was there any other officer there?
I never noticed any other, no, sir.
Did you see Mr. Lowe?
No, sir, I did not see him.
Did you see Mr. Vauxhall?
No, sir.
Or Mr. Pittman?
No, sir, I never saw any of them, only Mr. Murdoch. He was in charge. He filled our boat alone, sir.
And with 63 people in your boat, she lowered all right?
She lowered from the davits, yes, sir. She lowered from the boat deck, sir.
Did all the occupants of your boat get in from the boat deck?
Yes, sir.
Did any of them attempt to get in as it was being lowered to the water?
No, sir. I did not see any of them. We had only to pass one deck where they could get in. That would be A deck.
Did you have a compass in your boat?
I did not see one, sir. I do not know whether there was one in there or not. We did not require one, sir. As soon as it got daylight, sir, we sighted the ship.
Do you know whether the Board of Trade's regulation requires one to be in the boat?
They have them aboard, sir. They are aboard. They have a place where they stow them in the lockers. But whether they were put into the boat or not, I do not know, sir.
You did not see anything?
I did not see it, and I did not look for it.
Okay, that is all. You are excused.
So did you see any 100-ton chunks?
Oh, what the heck is up with that? Are you serious? That's our top priority question. 100 tons, size of your head.
100-ton chunks.
That was like really, out of all the
Probably
things you could ask, all the things you could ask, that's your priority right there. My goodness. I'm just, that really rankled me. Because there's so many, like, questions.
Yeah, they blow right by so many things that I feel like they should investigate more.
Oh, but then, were the lights out? And did you see the boat going down? Oh, how could you?
Yeah,
when it was dark.
Yeah.
So, what?
Suspicious.
I'm going to spend 3 pages of conversation on this.
Yeah, see how long
just
it took
to see
for the lights go
how
to go
much
out.
you're lying.
Yeah.
What the heck? So rankled. Yeah, really got under my skin on that one. But I thought about how everybody is, like, everybody was sure that the boat wasn't going to sink.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, because they both say it. Both of these guys mention it. Oh, I didn't think she'd
so
sink.
many in the past of the ones we've done. But how different it would have been if they had known.
Yes.
Everybody knew.
Maybe then
that this
the
was
chaos would have been, because also everyone has said, nope, there was no rushing, no...
You go ahead, I'll see you.
No screaming, yeah.
It's
so... Like, oh, I don't want to do it, you go.
Yeah, it just... So I thought about that just... It would have been such a different story.
Yes, I agree.
If it wasn't unsinkable. And the 20 minutes between explosions, it just gives such a show of how time was so different in everybody's perception.
Yes, I made a little note of that as well, because... Some people, it seems like it's quicker, but then, everybody's perception, and I'm sure this really stretched and felt like so long. I mean, because it did happen around midnight, but then they waited all night. They just sat in the boat,
and then after it sunk at 2:30, then there was still
just sitting
But
there.
then he's like, oh yeah, and then we pulled for a half hour, and then we saw the Carpathia.
Yeah.
That. Okay, that was it. Okay, never mind. That's for me later.
You're welcome, everyone.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought it was the next kid that said this, but that he was so like, we saw the Carpathia, and we knew it was the Carpathia, but we didn't know it was the Carpathia.
Yeah, we
per
just knew
se.
it was.
It turned out to be the Carpathia, and how they're trying to get it so right and explain it just so. Yeah,
but he mentions in that. Where he's talking, he does mention the light again too. That they started pulling for a light, and then they saw the Carpathia, so they went to her. Mm-hmm. But here again is this light that.
Yeah, and
this is the biggest mystery so far.
Yes.
I think,
and still to be this far in and not know anything more. And then one more thing about him was like the fireman. That there was one found in the boat, but I don't know how he got there. But no, he came, and he didn't jump in, or he wasn't hiding. He came from another boat, or another lifeboat. But I don't know how he got here. So that just really shows it was a good demonstration of the state of mind.
Yeah.
That one would be in
while
this is all going on.
What would you be paying attention to? A lot of things could go on around you that you would be oblivious to if you're focused, you're trying to row or you're staring at all the lights going out, wondering, like, what the heck.
And it's like 20 minutes between the explosions and half hour till we saw the Carpathia, and just how your mind would be bouncing all over the place. That someone got in your boat and you don't even... I know they came from another boat, but I don't know how he got there.
He just was there.
Really, really showed the amount of shock that they were in while this was all happening.
It would be really hard to relive it, I think, especially like with any kind of accuracy, and especially with these ridiculous questions that they're getting.
Yeah, that I think if I'm trying to tell a story and you're asking me if that was 80 tons or as big as my head, that it would throw off my concentration, derail
for sure.
Perfectly.
All right, so what happens to our boy Ernie?
So Ernest Edward Archer, he was neighbors with a survivor of the Titanic. This happened to be neighbors, and he's talking about his mate that got in the boat, and just my mate, and that is James Forward, who was on the same watch as him, who also survived, of course.
Okay.
And he continued working at sea, and in World War II he worked on a troop transporter. But he forbade his sons from becoming sailors. So,
okay.
I'm still going to do it, but no.
Yep.
And then he got pulmonary tuberculosis in his later years, and his family attributed that always to the shock and exposure from his Titanic experience. And he died at 41.
Wow.
So, that's not very old.
No, not at all. I mean, and he said he'd been doing it for 20 years already. These guys are kids when they start.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when you put it that way.
Because he did all that after. Mm-hmm. So he was born on the boat, basically.
Wow, what a life.
I can see why he wouldn't let his sons do it.
Yeah. And then, moving on to Haines.
Let's ask him what his duty is 20 times.
Yeah. I liked the whole White Star family. Yeah. That you could work on this ship or that ship, and maybe you'll see some of your buds and your mates, and maybe you won't, and maybe you'll see them next time. I thought that was really chummy and an old man, and just really, I like that. Brings a little
humanity to it.
Yes. And like he again is trying so hard to explain everything just right. So the forepeak, the water was coming in, but then
but not
we
the
looked,
tank,
but not the tank. Yeah, just trying so hard to get it precise and tell their story, and then again, like you said, but we're going to ask you something that's going to totally throw you off. And so that was then the asking like over and over, like, do you know their names?
Yeah.
Well, did you find them out later?
Well, no, and then especially when he's like, they're here. Oh, but you don't know their names.
And it's like he thinks that they were on the Carpathia just chatting like a casual Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. They were up all night and freezing,
and in shock from the most
horrendous experience of their life. I do like that he says a couple times, like, I took charge of the boat. It was my boat.
Yeah.
Someone did suggest about going back, but we were packed. We couldn't even row.
The responsibility that he took. Right.
Try to, that's what I was told. He just, I took charge of the boat, and we couldn't even row. So what good was it?
Here's the conversation that we had, and I was very noble of him.
Yeah, I thought it was very respectful.
Yeah.
Respectable.
So, And like, where he was like, I told the men it was no good rowing and can't do anything, and just the having to explain your thought process.
Yeah.
Not that many days afterwards to something that was so much terror and chaos and
somebody who has
what
no
were you
concept.
thinking at that time?
Yeah, what time was it?
I have no idea what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I still am not thinking.
But you didn't get the time. If you had to guess what time it was.
Well, what would you really say?
Yeah, and then when they do guess, they're like, but that's just a guess.
But how could you know that?
Yeah.
Have you been there? Have you seen it?
These poor guys.
I can't, the guys are really showing how befuddled one must have been in that. And gosh, I wish they had a better interviewer.
Yeah.
And then, was it the Boatswain missed his boat?
Yep.
I just barely got to mine.
Yeah.
I was like, yikes. And then my thing is, the the good condition of the davits because the screws were covered with little canvas covers. I want to see that. It just sounds so cute. It's a little tiny coat.
Just a little coat for you.
Yes, keep those covered now. So
I just
canvas.
have one other thing to say, and it's just sort of, if anybody's wondering like me, I didn't know, so I looked it up, that a coxswain is responsible for steering the boat, and the boatswain is responsible for the deck crew and the maintenance. Because when he says,
on the ship?
Like, yeah, and then when he says, when the guy came in and he's like, oh, he was the coxswain of the boat, I didn't know what that meant, but he was in charge of steering.
Okay.
All right, so what happens to Albert?
Well, he continued working on the sea for 21 more years.
Wow.
And while crossing a road in Southampton, he was struck by a motor car, resulting in a fractured skull.
Oh, my
goodness. He died in an ambulance en route to the hospital. And he was 53, but so probably should have stayed at sea.
Yeah, I guess.
And, sorry, that was mean. And then he was buried in an unmarked grave, but it is now marked with a wooden cross.
Okay.
Like currently, as we speak.
Okay.
And that's the tale of Albert Haines.
Okay.
So that's all I have. Yeah. So we'll see you next time.
Bye. Just a note from the readers, we want to thank you guys for listening, and we really value your feedback, so please let us know what you're thinking, either in the comments or at titanictranscripts@gmail.com.